So I don't know what you're looking at outside, but right now it is a full-fledged monsoon here in Atlanta. Whatever hurricane hit Texas, it seems like it is hitting us. This is like the sleepaway camp where you just went inside the bunk and you just said, you know what, screw it. I'm good for the day. Get out the Monopoly game, right? When there were no screens, or you got out the cards and you just said, we're here. We're just going to be here for the whole day. And or you went mudsliding, one of the two.
That sounds like a lot more fun to me.
Yeah, I mean, we did a little bit of A and a little bit of B. There's only so much you could go mudsliding before you had like disgusting all over you. And then we used to play Monopoly for like hours. I mean, hours. It was like the longest Monopoly games of all time because nobody would give up, right? Because normally when you get
I'm stunned you wouldn't give up. Stunned.
Well, when you get to mortgaging properties, normally you just throw the properties up and you go, okay, I'm good. But no, not us. We definitely did not do that. And then you hit free parking and you were like, yes, I got all my money back. Fantastic. So anyway, welcome to the Seth and Sean Sports Radio Show. Mitch Byer filled in last week for a special July 4th edition of Hockey Central. And we discussed a whole lot of where and when the NHL could expand. And you know what? That's important to discuss a little bit of the free agency that happened there as well. As you know what? We all have our specialties. And you know what? If Seth was going to host a soccer show, I would probably not be co-hosting that show either.
Spain and France, European semifinal right now, 74th minute.
Woohoo! Who's winning?
Spain.
Is that surprising?
Nah, no, they've probably been the best team in the tournament so far, so not really.
I've been following Copa America only because it's been the only sport that's on at the bar. I mean, it's.
Does nobody care about the Braves?
I mean, Atlanta is a fair weather town to begin with, and as you eloquently say all the time about baseball, it's July. What does anybody care about baseball in July? Well, next week we have our the All-Star break for baseball, which again, who cares? And but to that point, and we'll get to the NBA in a second. Joe Burrow, who I think is very intelligent when it comes to the NFL. He's not let's put it that way. He came up with an interesting suggestion today. I'm not sure if it was today or I just saw it today on social media. The NFL should go to 18 games, and they should go to 18 games soon. You get 2 byes. One bye at close to the beginning of the season, sort of the way that they do it now, right? Between weeks 4 and 11. The second bye, everybody gets the bye, week 13. Week 13 is when you play the Pro Bowl, much like Major League Baseball.
There's not one player who would play in the Pro Bowl.
You don't think so?
In the middle of a season, no chance.
Okay. And then you have the Super Bowl on President's Day, or the Sunday before President's Day.
February 14th, give or take?
The 21st. It would be the next week. So most people get off on the 20th, or get off on that Monday as a federal holiday. So you'd have the Super Bowl on that Sunday, and so people would be off on the Monday. Now, I have said for years I believe that is what the NFL eventually will move to, because I think it is productive for them. The unfortunate part is for all the people that have children that go on winter break to Florida and whatnot, say goodbye to your Super Bowl parties because you'll be in Florida on the Disneyland ride or a Disney World ride. Yes, I'm looking at you, Mr. Kamens. That will not be at a Super Bowl party. Rather, you will be on, I don't know, whatever Yogi Bear or whatever it is.
We'll be on the Jungle Cruise?
Jungle Cruise. Watch with your little handheld Super Bowl. And I'm not sure the NFL will get what they seek, which is more eyes on the game because they do it that way. That's just my take. I think more people go on vacation that week, and they may get it maybe ancillary, but you wouldn't get – I think you'll get actually less Super Bowl full-time viewers than you would get more. But that's just my take on it. All right. And you don't believe anybody would play in the Pro Bowl?
No, not a chance.
Meanwhile, but why is that any different than baseball?
Because you can get hurt in football any given week.
Yeah, but
you're not getting hit on baseball.
Right, but you're not. But
Can you imagine? Can you imagine Pat Mahomes playing in the Pro Bowl and tearing his ACL? There's not a chance that would happen. No
right,
shot.
but the way that the Pro Bowl is currently played, which is basically a two-hand touch game. It's not even a tackle game anymore. It's a two-hand touch game. You wouldn't think that people would play in a two-hand touch game? Remember, when's the last time somebody got hurt playing in the Pro Bowl?
Robert Edwards?
No. That was before the Pro Bowl. That was on a beach football court, beach football game. That was not in the actual game. That was preceding the game. And do you really know how long ago Robert Edwards was? Do you want to go back?
I want to say it's 1999.
Right, somewhere around there.
But I guess the question is, at what point would you, even if there's a 1 in a million shot, why would you want to take that chance? I don't see it.
So you don't think the players would play?
No chance.
Okay. All right. I think from a fan standpoint, it's the best way to get eyes on the Pro Bowl is doing it that way. From an NFL point of view, it's the best way of getting eyes on a Pro Bowl because if you have 12 weeks of NFL and then you have a week where nobody plays, well, that's the week everybody's going to be like, where's my football fix? I think it works for their standards. You may not get it from, like you said, it may be just the players may not play. You may have opt-outs. Okay. Getting back to the loss of losses, which I think I'm now 0 for the last 4 against you in drafts.
I think I whooped you 2 weeks ago.
You didn't whoop me. You whooped me.
Close?
It was closer than you probably believe because I had a lot. You pulled it out in the last 4 picks. In the last 4 picks, you accumulated 14 points, and I accumulated 10. Actually, in the last 3 picks, you got 9, and I got 0. That's where basically I got 3. That's where it came out. So you beat me by 8 points, 61-53. Which again shows that you and I know absolutely nothing about the draft because this is a total of 150 points and you got 61 and you won with 61. So you pulled out in the last 4 picks at pick number 27, you pulled Terrence Shannon to Minnesota, a 5 spot. You picked Ryan Dunn to Denver, who later got traded to Phoenix, but you picked that one. And you also picked Baylor Schneiderman, who went to Boston, but you picked him 1 pick early. So you got 9 points in the last 4. So props to you. I only got 2 5s in the entire draft, and those were the first 2 picks.
I was going to say 1 and 2.
1 and 2. You pulled out the first 4 picks were 5s. Congratulations on getting Dillingham as a 5. You got Missy as a 5 to New Orleans and Milwaukee, and then you pulled out Shannon and Dunn. I would like to say that you very much lost the over-under on the amount of trades because you said under 4. You said 3, and it was like 30. I don't think anybody – I think until pick 55, nobody – I think until Bronny James's pick, there wasn't 1 second-round pick that stayed the same. And that was the original holder. So let's talk about certain picks. First of all, Dillingham, who you picked absolutely spot on, going to San Antonio. And then he gets traded to Minnesota, which made me smile a lot. I believe that is the only – first of all, Minnesota trades a 2030 swap and a 2031 first-round pick. So basically, San Antonio cashing in a chip today to root against Minnesota in 7 years, 8 years.
Something along those lines, yeah.
Good moves by both sides.
Yeah, Minnesota's going for a title. This is they feel like they need a back. They need Conley's 37 years old. Makes all the sense in the world to me.
Well, the other thing is they're looking at this, in my opinion, is he's the replacement for Conley too. In that Conley's going to leave in 2 years, probably his deal's up. They have no other way. This was their shot, right? They have no other. They're not going to be a bad team. Minnesota will not be in the lottery, provided that Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, and Rudy Gobert are there, which means the next 3 years they will not be in the lottery.
Correct.
This was their shot at getting a guy, which I believe. So, who was it? It was somebody was on the NBA show with who's the old GM from Golden State?
Bob Myers.
Bob Myers and Stephen A. Smith. There was a guest, and I don't remember who the guest was, but he compared Dillingham to Allen Iverson. And that's a pretty big comparison right there. But if he is 80% of Allen Iverson, this is a title contender.
Well, it's a title contender anyway. I mean, Edwards is just going to get better playing on the Olympic team.
Sure. Where he's the number one option, right?
According to him.
I was wondering whether that was artificial intelligence or he actually really said it. And he really said it. So you got to be that's one confident guy. If you're saying you're the number one option on a team that has 7 to 8 Hall of Famers today on that team?
Yeah. It's a thing.
It's a thing. Yeah, that is confidence. All right. So let's take away from the draft and let's go overall. Who has won this offseason for you? Let's go team by team. Atlanta, win or loss? So they get rid of DeJounte Murray, right? They pull out.
I don't love what they. I think they could have gotten more. I don't love it
for Murray.
Yeah, I mean, I think Murray is a less dynamic, but probably a better player on a better contract, significantly better contract than Trae Young. And they didn't get. They got two. They got Dyson Daniels, who was a first-round pick a couple years ago, or a year or two ago. They got 1 or 2 other first-round picks, but New Orleans is not going to be in the lottery anytime soon. I think there was probably more out there.
So number one, they got the Lakers pick, not necessarily just New Orleans' pick. So they got the Lakers pick next year. So they're banking against the Lakers falling off a cliff, which is possible. It's unlikely, but possible. And they picked up a second first-rounder. They picked up Dyson Daniels, like you said. The contract's not as great as you think it is. I mean, it's better than Trae Young's, but he had a 15% kicker in that contract, trade kicker. So
so that moves him up because he was making about 26.
He moves up to at least 29 to start. So it's 29, 32, 35, 38, somewhere in there for those 4 years. By the way, the biggest trade kicker in the NBA, 15%. Because if you go above, part of the thing with trade kickers is if it goes above the maximum salary that you can earn, it stops at that anyway. You can't get above that max. So most of these guys that have trade kickers like LeBron or let's put Karl Anthony Towns or Anthony Edwards, they're already earning the max. So it doesn't matter whether you have a trade kicker or not. You're not going to get it. By the way, that trade kicker is paid by Atlanta. Just so you know, Atlanta has to pay New Orleans $15 million to pay that trade kicker over the course of the next 4 years. I would love to see the internal books of some of these teams on how money is transferred back and forth and all around to see how they budget those books. But okay, so Atlanta, Reese Shea, I don't know what to say of Reese Shea. We both picked him there, but I don't know if that's a win or a loss. It's a bleh until you can figure something else out. I don't know who the best player in this draft is. All right. The Wizards. Is that win?
I kind of like I like the Wizards draft.
Okay.
I'm going back. I have to go back and take a quick look at what.
Well, they got 3 guys, right? They got Bubba Carrington, right?
Okay.
They got Sarr. and
Correct.
they got one other guy.
They also signed the big center for New
Well, they
Orleans.
signed Valanciunas too. That's
for 3
certainly
years
true.
at 30, which is a pretty reasonable deal.
Oh, I think that is a tremendous deal for
Yeah.
two reasons. I think number one is the fact that he makes only $10 million and he can fit right into an exception, the Monte Morris exception. And number two, in 6 months, that's one of the most tradable contracts in the NBA. It's $10 million for a starting center.
A competent starting center who can help Sarr transition to the NBA.
Yeah. Oh, they also got Keyshawn George. That was the guy that the Knicks picked. So the Knicks picked him with their first guy.
I used to have a lot more opinions on college basketball, on players in the draft. I really don't have any anymore. So
that's fair. So, okay. So, well, I'm not looking for only justification in the draft. I'm looking for overall. So Houston picks Reed Shepard, who you picked correctly, some more athletic ability, right? And they just have a bunch of young guys. Like who's going to sign a contract? You get 200 million, and you get 200 million. And you know the thing about when you have what is it? I think it was Bill Parcells said, right? If I got two starting quarterbacks, I got no starting.
I have no starting quarterbacks.
And with this team, aside from Alfred Şengün, I got nobody because I don't know who I got. They got a whole lot.
You also have Fred VanVleet.
And you also have Dylan Brooks. But I'm saying you got a lot of guys. So you have a lot of young guys with a whole ton of potential. And then you got a couple of veteran guys where you know who they are, right? You know who Fred VanVleet is, and you know who Dylan Brooks is. But you don't know what this team is.
No.
I mean, this team could be third in the West next year, or they could be 10th in the West next year.
They could be 14. They could be lower than that. I mean,
lower than that, there are 15 teams. So are they really going to be lower than San Antonio? I can't put them lower than San Antonio.
I can. You brought in Chris Paul. You brought in Harrison Barnes. You have Wemby. You still have Keldon Johnson. You have some players there. So I think you very much can put them below San Antonio.
Well, let's talk San Antonio. So San Antonio, I think, won about 25 games this year.
Right.
In a packed West. They're making the playoffs for you next year?
I think there's a decent chance. Again, I think that I think there's a decent chance that they're close to the play-in level. I mean, are they a hardcore playoff team? No. But look, Wemby's going to just be better, and he was sensational this year. Chris Paul should be a good influence. Harrison Barnes is still a solid player. You still have some talent on that team.
Okay, well, let's talk about that Harrison Barnes trade now that you brought it up, because I think So San Antonio picks up Harrison Barnes for 2 years at $18 million. That's good asset management to me.
Agreed.
Because they gave up almost nothing to get it. They were basically just, hey, we need to put a salary somewhere, right? DeMar DeRozan goes to Sacramento. The thing about and Brian Winterhorst, who does the Hoop Collective podcast, says this every week. If you have 3 max salaries in this environment, your third player better play like a max player. Your third major salary better play like that. So let's take some of these examples, right? You have Kevin Durant in Phoenix. Kevin Durant plays like a max player.
Yes.
You have Devin Booker in Phoenix. Devin Booker plays like a max player. And now we have this max player number 3 named Bradley Beal, who does not play like a max player at all. That is the concern when you get into this third salary with these 8-boys. So if you let's look at the Timberwolves, right? Anthony Edwards plays like a max player. Rudy Gobert generally plays like a max player. Even if it's just defensively, he's playing like a max player. And the key to that team is always how well does Karl Anthony Towns play? Because when I get $50 million wrapped up in this third guy, how much is he going to play like a max player? And we'll get into the Knicks and why the Knicks, quite frankly, have bucked that trend because they don't have a max player, not one. Today.
But they have the problem. Well, not the problem. I mean, they've developed a really interesting team.
They do.
Which we'll talk about.
The Celtics have 2 max players, right? Or maybe 12 max players, depending on how much you want to say. So, okay. So we talked about the Spurs. I like what the Spurs have done, right? I think they got some good pieces. They got Devin Vassell, right? They got Keldon Johnson. They have Chris Paul. They have Harrison Barnes, and they have Wemby. That's not a bad deal. I mean, overall, Chris Paul is not the guy that I think they punted this offseason. I think eventually they are going to, and you and I have talked about this, they are going to get a young lead guard to go with Wemby, right? Whoever that may be. And I still think Darius Garland is the best guy that could be that guy. But I'm not sure Cleveland's trading Darius Garland. I think they may run it back against all stupidity. I think with those 5 guys, they may run it back. Okay, Detroit. Oh my Lord, what are you doing? I said this during the draft to you, did I not? I said, what are you doing? So number 1, they go get Ron Holland. Ron Holland in a vacuum is a good player. He is. He is a good player. And he may be the best player in this draft. Certainly has the capability to do it. The one thing that Detroit needed more than anything else in the entire league was somebody that could shoot the basketball from more than 20 feet. The one thing that Ron Holland does poorer than any player in the draft, shoot the basketball from 3. He was under 30%. He shot less than 53s. Seth, I don't know. I don't know what they're doing in Detroit. And more importantly, in a draft where everybody was everybody, right? Everybody was basically interchangeable. Could you not have and there were 1,000 trades. Could you not have traded down from 5 to anywhere else and gotten Ron Holland? And then
for the teams that wanted to trade up to take Klingon?
Yeah, like Memphis.
Like Memphis.
And then let's exacerbate the problem by going to get the $40 million guy from Philadelphia for $26 million. Who were they bidding against for Tobias Harris? Another guy that can't shoot.
Nope. You cannot.
And today they signed Cade Cunningham to a max contract. Okay. You got to tether your pole somewhere. But my Lord, Cade Cunningham should say, please take some of my money and go get me shooting. Because there is nobody on that team that can shoot. Nobody.
Evan Fournier is not walking through that door?
Trajan Langdon should come down for the front office. The Alaskan assassin should come down for the front office. You know him well. He kind of killed your Terps a couple of times. Okay. Charlotte. Oh, by the way, we failed to mention that San Antonio also got Castle, one of your favorites in the draft.
Yeah, there's your point guard for the next 10 years.
Yeah. I don't think he's your lead guard, though.
No, he's a point guard.
They still got to get that lead guard, regardless of who that is. Okay. Charlotte gets the Charles Oakley lookalike in Saloon. I'm not sure you saw him. Have you seen any footage on this guy? He is massive. I will tune into Charlotte games to see Lonzo. ball, passing, and this guy decking people. He's like an Anthony Mason / Charles Oakley guy. He'll give you 25 very, very entertaining minutes. Okay. Portland gets Klingon. So now we have Klingon, DeAndre, and Robert Williams. Excuse me, Leon Rose on line 1. Please, go get me Robert Williams.
Go get Robert Williams. Perfect fit.
Go get me Robert Williams.
Problem is, what are you going to trade? Because you have nothing to offer.
I got seconds, and you don't care about anything. You just want to tank. You're in the
tanking for flag.
You're in the capture the flag game. I am not the person that came up with that, but it is the best one. Capture the flag. It's tank for flag is not as good as capture the flag. There is no way. Okay. Wow, we just got lightning and thunder, so maybe power may run out. I don't know. Okay. Memphis. Memphis goes and gets Zach Edey.
A big maple.
I love it. I know you don't.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it. I think they should have traded up to get Klingon but look, you need a big. I don't know how he's going to fit with a team that runs like that and moves like that. But they needed a big man.
This is one of my favorite picks of the draft.
Could they have traded down and gotten him?
No. Sacramento picks 4 picks later. Who are you trading with? Utah wasn't trading up. Chicago wasn't trading up to get Buzelis. They knew he was going to drop to where he was. He's a Chicago boy, so they were not. That was their guy. Who was trading? OKC wasn't trading up. I don't think you have a team that maybe OKC would have traded up. That was the only.
I was going to say I can see OKC trading up.
But I think they had their heart set on Hartenstein,
which I really find very strange.
Why?
They have a center in Holmgren.
They don't have the one thing that they could not do in the playoffs was rebound.
Couldn't rebound. I get
or spit. I can rebound better than them in the playoffs.
Are you going to play a 7-foot front line?
No. What you're going to do is when Holmgren goes out. Well, first of all, I think you will see 2 of them play together for about 10 minutes a game. I do. And then when Chet goes out, I think Hartenstein plays by himself, obviously. And you get another 10 to 15 minutes out of that. So I don't think Holmgren's not playing 40 minutes a game. That doesn't happen. So Holmgren plays 35 minutes a game, which means that there's 13 minutes there, right? And then if Hartenstein plays another 10 minutes with Holmgren, so it's 23 to 25 minutes of Hartenstein, that gets you what you need. Because even when you took Chet out, it was Jaden Williams, the big Jalen Williams, who wasn't getting rebounding, nor could shoot, nor could pass. I mean, Hartenstein does more than just rebound.
No, he's a nice player. I find the fit strange. I know they wanted him, and who am I to question Preston?
$29 million for year 1.
What'd you say?
You got $29 million in year 1.
They pretty much poison pilled it.
Well, they gave him 2 years and a team option on the 3rd year, and they front loaded it. So not only because the Knicks couldn't do it, but because they wanted to bring him over, right? The Knicks could only offer 14 a year, and they said, we'll double it in year 1. Well,
yep.
Okay. Thanks, Isaiah. Have a nice day. Even Josh Hart said, go get your bag, because that's exactly what it was. It was a bag of cash. Look, for Memphis and Josh and Edey, I think it's a great fit. I'm not sure the up and down. I get that. But, okay, John Morant, you want to pick and roll? Oh, yeah, this works.
Yeah.
Like he may not be able to do the transition but they may have to change some of that. And now that allows Jared Jackson to more float out for threes where he can shoot 3-point shots at like a 35 to 37% clip, if not more. I think it's a better fit if they can slow it down. I agree with you on transition. He's not running with Ja. But how many people are? Once they get Brendan Clark back, I think that'll help too.
That will help. I mean, for Oklahoma City, though, who's there for? Dort?
Yeah.
Williams?
Well, Dort played the 4 last year.
He's to me, he's more of a 3, but yeah, I get it. I mean, you need a bona fide. I would have looked more for a 4 than a 5. But again, I don't know the team like they do.
Okay, Utah got more picks as they do. They did pick Williams. They did pick another sharpshooter, which I like. Right? If you don't know what you're getting, pick shooting. Like
that's the way this. What do you call it? That's the way this works.
Well, it used to be if you didn't know what you were getting, you pick size, right?
Yes.
I mean, in the 80s, it was, okay, I don't know if this guy can shoot. I don't know who I'm going to pick, but that guy's 7'2", and I know he can stand there, and I know I can throw the ball down to him. And if you look at this, if you look at the NBA draft, I think there were only 4 or 5 7-footers that were drafted. That is something that is strange. Okay. So moving forward, right? Okay. So moving forward, we have Chicago picks Buzelis. Chicago loses DeMar DeRozan. Again, this is a team that I have no idea.
And then they traded Caruso for Chris Duarte, who's
Josh Giddey.
Josh Giddey.
Josh Giddey. Giddey for Caruso. DeRozan, they got back Duarte.
What are they doing?
They're resetting, which makes sense, except then you sign Patrick Williams to a 5-year
$90 million deal for what?
Yeah.
It feels like it was a blown lottery pick who just hit the jackpot again, hit the lottery again.
He just got his bag. He got his bag. Okay, Oklahoma City takes a shot on Topic. This is what
he's out for the year. There's no rush for him to get back.
So overall, you think that the Hartenstein acquisition was a mistake? Because I think they're the best team in the West. I don't think there's any doubt.
You don't think there's any doubt they're the best team in the West?
They should be if I was an odds maker, and I believe actually Denver is favored in the West still. And I put money on Oklahoma City getting the number 1 seed.
Denver shouldn't be because they have no depth and they just lost their shooting guard.
Correct. So who's the best team in the West if it's not Oklahoma City?
Minnesota.
See, I love to hear it, but I just don't believe it. Oklahoma City
Minnesota's really good. Oklahoma City's very good. I don't think Hartenstein is the difference. It makes them that. I mean, he's a nice player, but you think he's the difference between making them a title team? Hold on, mute me for 1 second.
Yep. So I think that overall, Oklahoma City is the most talent in the West. Top to bottom, most talented team. I think that they will get the number 1 seed. They had the number 1 seed this year. So why would that change? They have the most adding Caruso for Giddey was a stroke of genius.
Yes.
They now have solved their 2 biggest weaknesses of last year, which was 3-point shooting, because a guy that couldn't shoot was on the floor when Josh Giddey, and rebounding. And now they don't have to worry about that.
I'm not sure if Alex Caruso is the fixing of the 3-point shooting.
Do you want to take a stab at what percentage Alex Caruso hit threes last year?
36.
41.
How many did he take?
He averaged over 3 a game.
Wow. Okay.
Josh Giddey couldn't hit the backside of a barn in the playoffs, and nobody but even more so, we've learned this. The NBA is more about spacing than it is anything else. You don't have to hit them, Seth. Somebody has to just believe you're going to take it. Somebody has to have thought process that, hey, I better guard that guy. Because if I don't guard that guy, then he may hit it. Josh Giddey, they never had to guard him because they knew he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. With Caruso, at least he has a chance of hitting him. Are you looking up Alex Caruso stats right now?
No, I believe you.
All right. Okay, moving forward. Sacramento, we talked about. I don't know how much this raises the bar from Harrison Barnes to DeRozan, but they had to do something. So at least it adds something. I think this is all about how much of an increase Keegan Murray has over the next year rather than what DeMar DeRozan brings to the table.
I think it's both. I think, look, you also traded two disappointing players in Davion Mitchell and the European shooter from Real Madrid. I forget his name.
And they got back Jalen McDaniels. Yep.
Yeah, who was not great last year, but worth taking a shot on.
Yep.
Look, they had a great year in 22/23. Last year wasn't a massive step back. It was only 4 or 5 games, but the West got better. If DeRozan can give you 20, DeRozan is a great offensive player. It's just a weird fit because they're still not a great shooting team, but they did bring back Monk. They still have Herder, I shouldn't say it. Herder should be better. Monk is a good shooter. Offensively, they're pretty damn solid. They still really don't have a center.
Well, part of that team is, again, we're talking about spacing, right? And how much spacing. Hold on one second.
Wow, this doesn't happen too often.
Sorry.
We're talking about. Oh, that was really quick. I got like a sentence in.
Yeah, well, we were talking about spacing, right? And DeMar DeRozan is a great 2-point shooter. He's not a great 3-point shooter. Keegan Murray is not a great 3-point shooter. DeAndre Fox is not a great 3-point shooter.
No. Your 3-point shooters are Monk and Herder.
Right.
And Herder wasn't great last year.
And there's only 5 spots on the court. So, I mean, and the defense is really, really, really going to suffer because they lost size. Harrison Barnes is 6'8", 6'9". DeRozan is a 6'6", 6'7" guy who doesn't play any defense whatsoever. So you are really relying on Keegan Murray stepping up and being that defensive player.
But that's what they've expected from Keegan. They expect Keegan Murray to become a really, really. I mean, look, he's had a nice year, nice rookie year. I forget if rookie year or second year. I forget. But the expectation is to step up for him. And if he steps up, look, Sabonis is an all-star. Fox is a borderline all-star.
Mm-hmm.
They have shooting. They do have shooting with Herder and Monk. They have DeRozan. They're going to be a fun team to watch.
Yeah.
They may score 125. They just may let up 130.
The only way that team has a chance to getting to the next level is if Keegan Murray becomes a superstar. Because they're not going to be an apron team. They're not going to be a cap team. They're pretty much, I mean, between Sabonis and Fox, this comes back to the same thing. Is your third player a max player? Because if not, then you're signing up all these guys at top level money, right? Because Keegan Murray eventually is going to want a max contract or something very similar to that, even if it's the fun max of $25 million. And then you have a lot of players, and are you going to make yourself incrementally better? I'm not sure unless Keegan Murray takes that step. He's the only way to facilitate a player like that because they're not trading anybody to get there, and they don't have a numerous amounts of picks. That's why they made the DeRozan deal to begin with. It was a way to get incrementally better, if not tremendously better. All right, let's move on to a team that definitely got better. The Philadelphia 76ers got better.
They got better.
Oh, my Lord, did they get better. Paul George, Eric Gordon. Now, Eric Gordon, better.
But Eric Gordon at $3 or $4 million a year.
No, I think they actually got him at the minimum.
I thought they got him at 3.
I thought it was the minimum. Andre Drummond, Caleb Martin, I mean, these aren't just names. These are good players on reasonable contracts. Caleb Martin gets 7.5.
What was the thought behind Paul George getting offered 2 and 60 from the Clippers?
Bye-bye.
They just didn't want. They would rather have Harden.
Bye-bye.
Why would you rather have
I
Harden?
think what they figured out, and granted, some of these opinions are culminations of other people's thoughts. And I listen to a lot of podcasts, so I've gotten. Hold on.
The suspense is killing me on that.
So I've got one was my nephew, who I will have to call back. So a lot of this has been hearsay here and there and everywhere. But all right. So if you're Paul George and you have Kawhi Leonard, you're Paul George, and you signed Kawhi Leonard for 3 years and 150, right? And that's what happened in January. So a couple of things may or may not have happened. Number one, you told Kawhi Leonard, you are going to be the highest paid player on our team. Okay. Well, if you're going to be the highest paid player on my team, guess what? I can't offer Paul George any more money than I'm offering you.
Right. He got what, 3 and 150?
3 and 150. So he took less than the max and less years. He took 3 years instead of 4 years. So if Paul George wants 4 years and has known for it to be 4 years, then how do you basically say, okay, we're done with you, right? You insult him. That's how you get rid of him. I mean, look, it's very easy. The other thing is this team, the way it was constructed, has not succeeded.
No.
So if you're Steve Ballmer has infinite amounts of money, right?
Right.
But the way that the second apron is targeted, the way that the limitations on the second apron, and I get the fact, if they offered him 3, why wouldn't they offer him 4? I get that part entirely, that if they did offer him 3. But if they only offered him 2, the other player that offered 2 was James Harden. And James Harden took 2 years at $70 million. My God, Seth, can I throw a tantrum over and over and over again and still get paid? Because that's what this guy has done. This guy has made more money throwing tantrums than any player in history, maybe more than Reggie Jackson. I mean, those are the 2 players I put together. Let's throw a tantrum and we'll get more money. Maybe Dennis Rodman too. I'd put them all in the same boat. But so James Harden gets 2 years at 70. Kawhi gets 3 years at 150. And once 3 years is over, Seth, they don't have anybody on the cap. Nobody. So are you comfortable playing Paul George $70 million at 38 years old once you don't have Kawhi, once you don't have James Harden? And you have to replace those guys with somebody, right? So you're probably the only way that you're going to be able to replace them. You don't have any draft capital. So you're going to be signing big money targets. And are you going to be any better in 4 years than you are today?
But they couldn't offer 3 and 120.
Maybe they, you know what? If you knew he wasn't going to take it, what's the difference? I mean, that's my take. If you knew he wasn't going to take it.
Because I think you want players to know that you don't want to seem
These are the Clippers. Come on.
Yeah, it's the Clippers that have been a really pretty well-run organization in the last 10 years.
It's true. I think they recovered really well, though. I'm not sure they're that much worse. Let's put Paul George on their team. Are they a top 8 team in the West?
Yes.
Assuming everybody's healthy, right?
Yes.
Are they a top 6 team in the West?
Maybe.
I don't think they are. So if they're a top 8 team in the West, is it possible? Let's say that they're not, okay? So replacing him with what they did, which includes Derek Jones, right? And that's not to say Derek Jones is a great player, because he's not, but he is a very good defensive player and makes that team better defensively, because Derek Jones plays, 80 games compared to Paul George that plays 52. they upgraded with PJ. Well, they had PJ Tucker. Excuse me. So they got Norman Powell, and they got Batum. They got three guys that could. I'm not saying they're going to fill that role. I think they're going to score a lot less. But I think they're going to. I think this is going to turn into a defensive team. And when was the last time you ever thought that James Harden would be on a defense?
A James Harden-led defensive team?
I think you're going to have the majority of your games under 100 points. Maybe 100 to 110 at most. This is going to be one of the lowest scoring teams in the NBA. But I also think that they will be defensively one of the best teams in the NBA. And if that's the case, are they any better or worse off than they were with Paul George and his $60 million a year? Now, Philadelphia, this is like a fitting in a glove, right? I mean, this is the perfect situation for Paul George for years 1 and 2, maybe 3 and 4. Because remember, Paul George is still 35 years old.
It's amazing he's that old. I wouldn't have thought of it, to be honest.
And it's also amazing that there are players that are that young, right? Like Josh Giddey is like 22, right? And still, I mean, it goes both ways that these guys are really old and really young. He's like 30. I think he's 35. He may be 34. But to think, remember, Paul George also survived the catastrophic injury. I mean, one of the worst injuries I have seen on a basketball court. He's 34, by the way. He was born May 2nd, so he'll be 34 all year next year. I know.
What about May 2nd? Really?
May 2nd, 1990. Yep.
That's funny.
So for those that don't know, Seth was born May 1st and I was born May 3rd. So he is in the middle of the two of us. We can wish him a happy birthday next year on Twitter. Or X, formerly known as Twitter. So 76ers, right? 76ers have made themselves much, much, much better. Seth, are they better than the Knicks?
Too early to tell. In theory, yeah, I think so. Simply because they have, but that's all predicated on Embiid being healthy. I mean, he's a 30-year-old center who has Bell's palsy, for God's sakes. Like, he's had an injury in some weird thing so many times, it's hard to. But would I take George, Embiid, Maxey over Brunson, Bridges, Anunoby? Oh yeah. Because look, you still take a dominant big man if you can. And the one thing the Knicks don't have is they don't have height. They don't, losing Hartenstein hurts.
Look, you're not going to get me. You don't have to convince me. If everybody is healthy, the 76ers are a better team.
Yes.
The likelihood of everybody being healthy is next to zero.
Yes.
Because it has never happened. So with George and Embiid, they are an older team. They are a much older team. They are banking on Robert Covington at 33, Drummond at 31, Embiid at 31, George at 34. They'll probably re-sign Kyle Lowry at 39. Caleb Martin at 29. Maxey is obviously, and Obrey are 20. Maxey's 23 and Obrey's 29. I mean, their depth still hurts. They don't have that depth. I think Caleb Martin is a great addition to this team.
I agree.
I love what the Knicks did. Absolutely love what they did. I'm not sure I love it.
You talking the Bridges deal?
Yeah, well, everything that they did. I love that they brought in Tyler Kolek. I love everything that they did.
I like that a lot. You need to.
They emptied out the cupboard, which is the hard part. Right? Because now you can't supplement. Now you have an issue with that, and so it's. I like the team the way the team is, but is this a championship team? Look, if everything falls right, it is. It 100% is. If everything falls right.
Mitchell Robinson had, as you said, I would be calling Joe Coronin in Portland.
Yes, 100%.
Getting me a center.
Yep.
Now, again, I don't know exactly what you offer.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. So let's see what the Knicks have. Okay. So the Knicks have a protected 1 through 10 pick from Washington next year. That's not going to convey next year. They have their own first round pick in 25, which they can trade. Hold on. Can they trade that pick? When did the New Jersey picks come into play? All right, this must not have been updated because there's no way we have all these picks. It's just not. It's not feasible that we have all these picks.
No, you traded 5 first-round picks.
I know. That's what I'm saying. There's no way we have these picks. So it's saying we have all of our picks for the next 2 years. That we don't. I will say I want to see what we have. So acquire 6 picks, future draft picks. This is what I want. So Knicks have a 2025 first round pick from Detroit. No, this doesn't have it either. Nope, does not have it. I know we have 2 protected picks next year. We have Detroit's pick and we have Washington's pick. Now, Washington's pick is 1 through 10. Detroit's pick, I believe, is 1 through 8. Neither one of those is going to convey next year. And if they don't convey next year, I think Detroit's pick goes down to 1 through 5. And I think Washington's pick becomes 2 second rounders. So it's a protected pick. So it's all about if Portland wants to get off that salary, that's a way to do it, right? And who knows if Robert Williams, who has never been healthy for a full season, we're getting down that path too. Then the Knicks do have $12 million, which they can use for salary because they made that Bridges deal a little bit bigger. And so they have under the they are hard capped at the second apron.
Right, but they're under the
and we could talk more about what these cap situations are. We got 2 minutes left until the 5-minute warning. Tell me about your Bronny James thoughts. Do you care?
No.
I think it's exactly what the Lakers should have done.
Yeah. Because it guarantees you're going to keep LeBron for 2 or 3 years.
Oh, I'd even go further. For all those people that are saying nepotism, yes, it was nepotism. Okay. Moving on. Every other sport, every other profession, everything is nepotism. Seth, if Jake one day wants to become the owner of a CPA firm, guess what?
He ain't buying mine. I'll be retired by then.
Right, but you'll be happy to groom him into getting one. You will help him. That's your job. That is your job as a parent, is to help your kin, if you will, do better in life. And if the way that is LeBron James going into Rob Pelinka's office and saying, draft my son, okay, like whatever. That doesn't faze me whatsoever. Yes, please. Keep doing it over and over and over again. Okay. Last 5 minutes, Seth. Go right ahead.
Melancholy farewell to John McEnroe, who's retiring from commentary on tennis.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, generationally, he's tennis's Charles Barkley.
Yeah.
Some of the comments probably not fit for this quote unquote woke generation, but he was a great announcer. He made the game as cool as tennis ever was going to be. And, for a sport that's having so much trouble losing ground to paddle and pickle and all this other stuff, and losing Federer and soon to lose Nadal and losing Serena, it's just another blow in my mind, the best sport in the world. So it's a shame.
So next week we're going to have next week is the Jimmy V, right? We do that after the baseball All-Star game. ESPN does their V awards, the ESPN awards. And there's a great video on ESPN about Stuart Scott and the impact of him. He's always kind of forgotten in the lore of announcing. Probably because, you know what? It's been a while, right? It's been a while since Stuart Scott has been on the air. It's been a while since we heard Booyah. It's been a while. And
Since Stump to Schwab.
yeah, and announcers today, first of all, ESPN is not as prevalent as it once was. SportsCenter is certainly not as important as it was when we were in college. SportsCenter was must-see TV when we were in college. You wanted to be on SportsCenter, and I don't think that is there. But the impact that Stuart Scott had on sports reporting, the impact, look, I don't think inside the NBA is inside the NBA without Stuart Scott. I think that is part of the lore that he leaves, is the ability to be himself on the show. I don't think anybody brought that more than he did. And so I would suggest going to ESPN.com. It's called SportsCenter Featured, the impact of Stuart Scott's Fight Like Hell ESPY speech. Every year I listen to Jim Valvano's speech, which is the most inspiring speech you'll ever hear. If you're looking for another one and able to cry a little bit, because you will, listen to Stuart Scott's as well. All right. We'll go through the rest of the NBA. We only made it through about halfway this week. Next week, Seth Kamen's over there. I'm Sean Palmer over here, and we'll talk to you guys next week. Have a good one, everybody. Oh, and we're on Tuesdays now. Tuesdays.